Hello everybody, welcome back to another video. I'm hoping you guys are all having a fantastic day. So today's upload we'll be talking about that winter storm, potentially a blizzard across the Midwest and Northern Great Lakes. There have been quite a few changes, quite a few details that are still blurry, but overall the storm is coming together. We are now starting to see heavy rain across the southeast and southern United States. So we'll be going all over that. It may be a bit of a longer video, but hopefully you guys will be able to enjoy it still. If you are new to this channel, hello and welcome. I am a weather hobbyist, enthusiast. I talk about the weather, and if you guys would like to check out my other videos and you like them, consider subscribing, and if you are a returning viewer, liking the video would be amazing. Now let's get started let's start talking about the system. As I mentioned, there were a few big updates. However, don't worry, the storm is still looking big, and I do say don't worry for those that are snow lovers. I understand there are many people dreading this, so there's a win-win. The snow will still fall heavy across many locations, but not a monstrous blizzard that will paralyze any city, it seems. That would be really bad. Okay, let's start off by looking at the GFS, Global Forecasting System. Again, I show all models, or I try going over as many as possible, and I start off with random ones in each video. Yesterday I showed the European model first, today I'll show the GFS. So, again, as I mentioned, we are already looking at the rain developing across the southern United States as of recording this video at around 3 o'clock Central Standard Time. Sorry if you're hearing a crackling noise. I'm trying to move my monitor a bit up. It was a bit facing downwards. And notice that, as I mentioned, lots of the south are already seeing rain. The rain is falling pretty heavily, and it's very, very widespread. It's one of those classic winter slugs of precip, if you will, that just moves on from the south and then meets with the cold air from the north and makes a snowstorm. And that's really what we're going to be looking at with this system. So let's take this to the future. This is at around 6 p.m. Central Standard Time. Notice the rain continues pushing to the north, the cold air to the south. That is obviously a collision waiting to happen. As we push into early Monday morning, at around 2 o'clock in the morning, okay, notice that the system starts taking on to a negative slope axis. It really starts, again, dwindling with that cold air, kind of intermixing, and notice that we start seeing quite a bit of snow conversion from the rainfall. Again, these winds will be pretty powerful, maybe not as strong as previously thought, so I think I will really opt out from using the word blizzard in the title, mainly because the National Weather Service may not call this a blizzard, or they may not call blizzard warnings. But I do want to emphasize one thing. I want to clear this up. Just because there's a winter storm warning and not a blizzard warning doesn't mean there won't be any winds, right? So in order for there to be a blizzard, there are strict criteria. The winds have to be over 35. So if you have winds at around 30 miles per hour, it's going to feel like a blizzard, but it's not going to be called a blizzard. And that seems to be the scenario here. Some of these winds are going to be very, very close to being a blizzard, but they are not going to be called a blizzard because they are not close enough. They are not over that margin. So again, Indiana, Ohio, Detroit, all those locations, Michigan, not Detroit, I just specified a city, they will be seeing blizzard conditions, right? But they may not necessarily see blizzard warnings. Again, don't get deceived by that. You could have a winter weather advisory with still blizzard conditions ongoing. Notice that as this pushes into, again, 6 o'clock in the mornings, Monday, 12 o'clock noon for the Central Standard. For the Eastern United States, that's at around 1 o'clock in the afternoon. We have lake effect. Now, the whole story with the lake effect is it will be playing a big role in this system. And even across portions of Ohio, Pennsylvania, and upstate New York and Michigan as well. And, of course, Indiana, where much of the system snow, the precipitation from the system, won't even affect those areas. But they could still be looking at many locations, as the National Weather Service officially is calling for 4 to 6 inches across those locations. They are saying that there will be plenty of locations over 6 to 8 inches, except that is too hard to call, and they don't want to specify such high amounts with such high uncertainty. So as we push this forward, this is at around 12 again, 1 o'clock p.m., this is at around 7 o'clock p.m. We start seeing more of that rain transition over to snow. As I mentioned from the beginning, pretty much from a week already ago, much of the East Coast will have a rain situation with this storm, unfortunately. And I mean, it's, this thing at this point is December 1st. It's still pretty early. While there have been coastal storms that brought snow, this is not one of them. Notice that Ohio, Kentucky, Tennessee, Indiana are all under snow, and depending on how strong that wraparound moisture is, we'll have to see, how much snow falls. So notice this thing starts really stretching out, very strong cold fronts, lots of plentiful cold air, the lake effect continuing to shoot off of Lake Michigan. Again, this is a GFS, it's a long range model. They do a very bad job of this, but I just want to say that the lake effect will be most likely overperforming as the cold air is there and the lakes are warm and not a single percent of them are frozen, and that definitely helps out the high snowfall amounts. So again, for exact timing, go to the National Weather Service. They have basically hour by hour provided for you, so that's definitely more trustworthy than some of these models I'm showing. As we push this into forward, notice Canada as well. My folks in southern Canada, especially just northeast of Lake Huron, north of Lake Erie and Lake Ontario, more so Lake Erie than Lake Ontario. You'll be seeing, again, very strong winds, very strong snow amounts, and possibly some lake effect aiding in, especially off of Lake Huron. And then notice that as we push this forward, it really sticks on for quite a while across portions of Canada, possibly making those locations, Western Ontario, Eastern Ontario, Western Quebec seeing the heaviest amounts out of this whole storm system. And then we see, again, the cold air still stick around for potentially another storm, which the models have all over the place yet again. I did not mean to go that far. Let's go back to hour 90 where this system seems to be wrapping up. Again, I mean, it could start today and end basically by Thursday of this upcoming week. So it's a long story. It's a long system. Total snowfall, you can see that's lots of Ohio, Pennsylvania, West Virginia, still in that 3 to 4, 5 inch mark. And I think the GFS has been the worst of them. So, and the GFS is showing the least amount of snow out of all the models. Show you the European in just a second. But notice it shows quite a bit across Canada into western Quebec and eastern Ontario. Lots of snow. Many locations seeing 20 to possibly 24 inches of snow, 2 feet plus. Now, in terms of centimeters, I don't know the exact conversion ratio, but that would be much higher. I think it's 2.5 around that margin. 24 times 2 is 48. Times another half would be 48 plus 12, so maybe 60 of centimeters in the highest of locations, which would be very large amounts of snow. And if you were to take a glance at again, Indiana, Detroit, Michigan, all those locations in Indianapolis, quite a bit of snow. Again, the lake effect is grossly underestimated. Let's take a look at the Canadian. I think the Canadian has done relatively a good job, pretty on par with what the European model is showing. Notice it does a better job with the lake effect, showing those higher amounts of snow. Still not as high as I think there will be because of the concavity of the winds. And they will be basically flowing in the same direction as Lake Michigan. So the winds, because of the setup of the storm and its arrangement and the high pressure blowing winds kind of towards its, kind of repelling each other, the winds will be basically coming off the whole length of Lake Michigan, which means the snow bands will be really strong, heavy, and there's even some indications that some of these lake effect snow bands may extend into portions of southern Indiana, which would obviously be very strong, especially by the coastal areas, potentially many, not many, localized areas over 8 to maybe even 12 inches of snow. The National Weather Service isn't excluding that. Ohio, Pennsylvania, New York, you can see that they have many locations over a foot of snow with the Canadian. I think that's definitely going to be possible, if not likely. Eastern portions of Michigan, Detroit included in Port Huron, over 6 inches seems possible, if not growing, more and more possible as we push forward into time. I think it's going to be likely. Tennessee, Kentucky, I would say 3 to 4 inches. The National Weather Service is calling for less. If you were to take a look at the National Weather Service map, let's zoom out of Chicago and I don't know where I am. Okay. Let's just go right here. I forgot I had this pulled up. Notice that there are winter weather advisories instead of winter storm watches. Now again, this that may not necessarily be the case because of how long duration the system is. So in order for there to be a winter storm warning, it needs to be 6 or more inches in 24 hours. However, as I demonstrated, this storm may be around snowing for portions of Ohio more than 24 hours. So even if it's 10 inches in 10 inches in 36 hours, and the first 5 inches fall in the first 24 hours, and the first the next 5 inches fall in the next 12 hours. That's not going to be enough for a winter storm warning because of just the timing and the low intensity of the snow. The amount still may be high, so they have special criteria for these advisories and warnings, which is or watches, which is very important to know. if I were to click on Dayton, they aren't showing much snow, right? Generally, I think 1 to 2, if not even a bit less. Yeah, 1 to 2, less than 1 inch. So anywhere, I think the official advisory says 1 to 3. Again, the Canadian, in this case, would show a bit more, almost 6 inches across much of Ohio. And by Cleveland, there is a winter storm watch, and it's a pretty powerful one at that. It shows easily over 12 inches of snow. Let's go back here. Sorry I'm jumping around so much, but I know this will be a long video. I'm trying to fit this in. If you look at Cleveland, they have a winter storm watch in effect that will be upgraded to winter storm warning. And if you were to take a look at the total snowfall, they're showing that heavy snow with locally greater than 12 inches in higher terrain, especially if that lake effect snow kicks. And I wouldn't be surprised to see some amounts nearing that 1.5 foot mark of 18 inches, especially with how warm the lakes are. So you can see that the Canadian is really favoring quite some heavy amounts of snow. Let's take a look at the GFS parallel. This is a upgraded supposedly version of the GFS and has been doing a relatively good job. Notice it shows similar amounts to what the GFS show rather than the Canadian. Still heavy amounts for cities like Detroit, Cleveland, even Pittsburgh getting on some of this action, possibly kind of right on the cusp. Again, Eastern Ontario, Western Quebec seeing copious amounts of snow, and a lake effect, again, underdone, which may be a significant player in some of these amounts across Indiana. I will show you that with some of the high resolution models now. Let's take a look at the NAM 12KM, which just came in, the most updated version of 18Z. Again, you can see it really centers a lot of snow across southern Canada and into Toronto. And you may be wondering why I'm talking about Canada. I do have around 30 to 35% of my viewers from Canada. That is a surprisingly large amount, but that's simply because I don't ignore their weather and I talk about it, and people appreciate that. I mean, it makes no sense to just stop talking about the weather across the border, especially if I don't have to even change the map layout or any of that sort. So notice, cities like Toronto, again, kind of on that border. If this shifts a bit further to the east, you could see more snow. Detroit still seeing 4 to 5, 6 inches. Same with Cleveland. I think this is a bit underdone with the NAM model. Still, they show amounts of snow possibly as far south as Alabama and Georgia. The RGEM model, this is, a pretty good model. I appreciate it. I think it's done a pretty good job with the previous systems. It does a better job with the lake effects now. Still not really that accurate, if you will. But notice, on Dayton, with this model seeing around 4 to 6 inches, maybe a bit towards that 4 or 5 inch range. Cleveland, well over a foot of snow in that little bright green area, into portions of Canada as well. This may not look like a large potential system, but you add the winds, it's going to be feeling pretty miserable. And if I were to show you this, some of these amounts are still not fully finalized. The lakes may be going well. Sorry about that. I think a plate was dropped. Some of these lake effect snow bands may be going well on after the storm is past. And just to show you what the radar looks at Thursday, so many days, you can still see snow across Pennsylvania, New York. And while this wasn't as big of a storm as previously thought, it's late November, very early December, and most of the storm will be out of here by December 3rd or 2nd. And let me tell you that there's a lot of activity looking in the long range, a lot of potential for snow. So this is definitely just a taste of what's to come. I think I'm pretty confident that December is looking rather chilly and snowy. Not so sure about the chilly, but definitely I think it's going to be a snowy December, which we have seen in prior years. I think I'll make a separate video on that today, talking about that and in the December potentialness for snowy this year. And I wanted to show you the lake effect. And in order to really justify the lake effect snow amounts, I think we have to look at the HER model. So this is an extremely high resolution model that goes out very short distance, but does probably the best with the lake effect snow. And notice that, again, we have the rain moving to the north. What we start seeing is a lake effect, several of them developing off of Lake Michigan into northern Indiana and eastern Illinois. As we push this into time, notice that the HER model doesn't convert a lot of the rain into snow across Ohio, which we'll have to see, as the National Weather Service said themselves. I was reading a forecast discussion from Cleveland, Wilmington, Ohio, either of those two offices. And they were talking about how a lot of these models are a bit more towards the rainy side, where the wet bulb or the temperature bulb. Yeah, the wet bulb temperatures will be supporting more of a snow scenario. So some of these amounts may be a tad higher, inch or two higher. And I mean, you can see it shows rain into tomorrow afternoon, which most likely won't be the case. But notice that the snow continues to fall well into Tuesday, and that winter weather advisory that we have issued for much of Ohio is ending at around that early Tuesday time, depending on the exact weather office and county were issued. I want to zoom in on the north central United States just to take a glance at the lake effect, as that could be very significant, since lake effect is extremely hard to predict. So let's take the timing through this. If you live in Indiana and Illinois, this is where the time zone splits these locations. So add or subtract an hour if you live in the Eastern time zone, add an hour. If you live in the central, keep it the way it's shown here. As we push this into, again, 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock Monday morning, so in less than 12 hours, we start seeing snow develop across Indiana. Some lake effect snow showers and squalls beginning to develop. Again, these sometimes pack a punch. And as I mentioned, these lake effect snow bands may be very tall and still yet underestimated by the high res. Notice some of these bands are pushing into the city of Chicago. They won't push really far out of Cook County, maybe into Lake County a bit. The HER model is really one that pushes them pretty far to the west. But look at that. I mean, this band right here looks pretty potent. It's strong, it's well put together, and stays centered across a location for a good while. And that could obviously lead to very high amounts of snow. Notice this is at around 12 o'clock noon, or 1 o'clock in the morning, Tuesday morning, and it's still snowing across Ohio. And I think a lot of these amounts will be higher because of that rain, snow, fuzzy area. You can see 4 or 5 inches, and I think that's where a lot of the snow will continue to fall. Cleveland still not getting in on this at that time. They will, don't worry. Notice that lake effect snow band definitely in that 9 to 10 inch range according to the high res, which is a bit higher than the National Weather Service official forecast. But as they said themselves, it may be a overachiever type of a lake effect event. This is the National Weather Service for Cleveland, and this is their expected snowfall. You can see 7-8 inches. And this is through Tuesday morning. And again, a lot of the snow may fall after Tuesday. These amounts still may be higher even after Tuesday morning. So that would provide a more significant event. We'll have to see how quick that rain to snow transition occurs and how easily does it maintain itself as snow. The high-end amounts, I think that there will definitely be some. I think this is what the amounts of snow will look like as the whole system is over with. I don't know if there will be 11 or 9 inches across these locations, but I definitely expect 14-inch amounts across, especially right next to the lake. Not through Tuesday, 7 o'clock, but really through Thursday. I think that those amounts will be present, as this will be a long duration event. Let's take a look at the Detroit office. And still relatively high amounts, 3 inches. Not amazing, but that's definitely shovable if it does start accumulating on the pavements. Port Huron, as you push towards Canada, more snow. The high-end amount pushing into that 6, 7, 8 range. This is just through tomorrow, 7 o'clock in the afternoon. This expected snow. So in total, there will be more snowfall for sure out of this. Again, especially towards those lakes, as the winds will be coming off those Lake Huron, Lake Erie, all of them. This is now the one for northwestern Indiana or northern Indiana. This is what they call for the lake effect. You can see 7 with a few pockets over that 8-inch amount. I do think that will be the case, and lake effect is just really hard to predict. And notice that's what they have for these locations: 5 inches of expected total snowfall. And if you were to look at the 1 in 10 chance of the snowfall, the high-end amounts, it's looking, quite significant. Again, I don't think that there will be 5 inches, in Maryville or Brookston. I think it will be lighter amounts. Definitely, though, this right here could be a bit higher amounts. We'll just have to see how the system behaves. This is a low-end amount, so you can see it doesn't seem like this will be likely, but it's obviously a possibility as much as this is a possibility right here. So I want to show you one last thing, and that is I think I had Kentucky pulled up here. I may have not. Okay, but I will pull up Kentucky and show you their office. Okay, so let's take a look at the Louisville National Weather Service centered in Kentucky. And notice that we have, again, the snowfall amounts are relatively low, but as I mentioned, the system, if it could overproduce, these amounts will really skyrocket. So this is for Kentucky, Lexington, you can see 1 inch, Moorhead around 1 inch, Jackson less than 1 inch. So while they do seem easily, again, it's hard pressed to find a large snowstorm across Kentucky in late November. But Obviously, this snowstorm, you can see if it does overproduce, it could end pretty high, 3 to 4, 5 inches, especially as you go towards Ohio and Indiana and portions of western Virginia. And now, as you take a glance at the low end amounts of snow, you can see that in terms of the low compared to the expected, in terms of the, sorry about that, if you look at the expected snowfall versus the low end amounts, there's not that much of a difference. I mean, we do have an inch of snow in Lexington. With the low end amounts, it would be 0, but less than 1 inch across Moorhead. With expected, it's an inch. So it's really, if it overproduces, there could be more of a shock. And let's take a glance now at I want to take a look at the Wilmington office also, probabilistic snowfall. Last glance at Wilmington, Ohio, another National Weather Service station, and notice that Dayton 2 to 3 inches. Again, as you go further towards the north, the amounts really quickly increase. I do think that we could be receiving higher amounts of snow across Dayton and portions of Wilmington, maybe even Cincinnati, as this system could overproduce very easily. It has the potential, and right now this is definitely the low end of the amounts for each model system. As you saw, the European shows really 4 to 6, more like 7 inches across portions of Dayton and central Ohio versus 2 to 3 or 1 inch, which I think is a bit conservative, pretty conservative from the National Weather Service. But again, that is their call. And that's basically it for today's video, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Consider subscribing if you guys would like. And I just want to remind that for official weather info, go to the National Weather Service. They are your best source. Keep your eye to the sky. And on the radar, go to tropicaltidbits.com. This is a great website, and you can check out the weather models for yourself. And I'll catch you all guys in the next episode. See ya. Bye.